All right, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Chopping It Up with P. Scott. I'm Prescott Kelly. Today is Friday, December 15th. Glad to have you back with us. We got a lot on the docket today, so I'm not going to try to waste too much time on the intro. We got an interesting one. How important is Brock Purdy if he were a pizza ingredient? Because that's the new thing on the interwebs. Mike Greenberg just completely melts down about Josh Allen. Draymond Green is suspended, quote unquote, indefinitely. There's so much to get to. Go ahead and throw your comments in the chat. We got time, and I'm going to do my best to get through all of my topics as well as yours too. So what I want to start with is this funny thing going around the internet. A lot of people can't take a joke when it comes to sports. They treat it like this. It's this weird cathedral. Now, the athletes I get. They're the ones who are putting their bodies in the line. They're the ones who are actually legitimately the ones who need to take it seriously. Between them and, the coaching staffs and everybody else that's actually part of what's going on. That makes sense. But as far as fans, like, we take this stuff way too seriously. But I saw something funny the other day, and it had to do with Brock Purdy and how it's a photo of him putting pepperoni on a pizza, and it's, I bet you that Shanahan, Debo, and McCaffrey made the pizza, and McCaffrey just Purdy just went ahead and put the pepperonis on it. And I'm looking at this from the perspective of, if we're going to do this, if we're going to make light of sports, Brock Purdy should be the toppings. Some people say the toppings are the best part. It might be the best part, but it's not the fundamental base of what it is. All right, so let's go ahead and go on this strange tangent of food and sports correlation for a moment. You can't have a pizza without a crust. Like, that's definitive. You cannot debate me on like pizza bowls and things like that. You have to have a crust. That's the base. That's the foundation. That's Trent Williams. That's Shanahan. Okay. Then for me, like, I love sauce on a pizza. If you don't have good sauce, a great sauce can make a good pizza. It can elevate it. And to me, that's Christian McCaffrey. He's the sauce. He's the saucy dude. And you have to have a cheese. Yes, you can have it without it. But again, if we're doing the traditional style of what we know it to be as a food, you got to have cheese as well. And that is essentially Debo Samuel. And you can, if you have multiple cheeses, put Brandon Ayuk in there as well. That is how you make a pizza. It is the crust, it is the sauce, and it is the cheese. Brock Purdy is the topping, because guess what? You can choose the topping. You can technically choose your sauce. You can choose your cheese. But those are the fundamental basics. That's what you're built on as a pizza, a real pizza. You can pick and choose everything else, because we've seen, if we're doing this still, we've seen pizzas, for the lack of a better term, right? Teams are the pizzas. We've seen pizzas go to Super Bowls with Jimmy Garoppolo. What would he be as a topping? Anchovies? He's too pretty to be an anchovy. That's disrespectful. Maybe a mushroom. I don't know. But we've seen these teams pizzas get to Super Bowls with Jared Goff and championship games with Blake Bortles. You can pick and choose, but you've got to have the other three things to make it work. The argument that I had with somebody else was the toppings are the most important part. No, they aren't. Because you get to decide. If you just have them individually, all you're having is snacks at that point. You're not having a pizza. So that, to me, is my argument. Brock Purdy's toppings, because that's what QBs get. They get the love. Toppings get the love. But you can't have the toppings without everything else working beside it. So Matt Sierri, and I hope that I'm pronouncing your name right, because I don't know how your last name is pronounced, because we never actually spoke face to face. But he's a big Bills fan, and him and I always have these really fun back and forths, whether it's on my page or whether it's someplace else, because he's a very big Josh Allen defender. I am somebody who has grown to just accept what he is, because I remember the first 2 years of his career and everybody calling him trash and me just having to sit back and just dial people back in and say, can we just dial it back for a moment? Because there was no help there. Absolutely none. Then he gets Diggs and he blows up. And I've accepted now the fact that he's going to just Josh Allen is who Josh Allen is. I will never consider him to be an MVP candidate because I don't trust him in big situations. People are holding on to that ridiculous game against Kansas City in the playoffs a number of years ago and acting like Buffalo won. And they keep putting him on this ridiculous pedestal that I don't abide by. And also, I've been on this show before, and I'll say it again. When people lean super hard into one thing, I feel like I've got to be the opposite point in the voice of reason in like the counterbalance of it. So, sorry, my Fitbit went off and it said I reached 10,000 steps. No, I'm just talking like I'm Tommy DeVito because I'm Italian. You know, it's giving me extra steps, and I'm not going to claim them. By the way, those 10,000 to me don't count. Most of them do, but not those ones. But yeah, like I feel like what we do is when we fall in love with a player or a play style, we want to elevate them to certain levels that they aren't. And when Mike Greenberg, when he was I don't even know which show it was, but I saw a clip of him just defending Josh Allen to the absolute death. And Matt had brought it back up, and he said, "See, look at Mike Greenberg. He loves Josh Allen." And Matt, I love you to death. You push me, you make me think. But this one to me is a no-brainer when it comes to Greenberg and why he does this. He's a Jets fan. This is pretty cut and dry. He is defeated. Now, the thing is, he always will have this, waving the finger. Now, if you're not watching the podcast through Spotify or YouTube and you're just listening, that's bad for audio. But when I say Joe Namath finger wag, you know what I'm talking about. Word association, like it's those two things. When you do word association with Joe Namath, it's finger wag, fur coats, cigars, and that's it. But they still have that, regardless of how long ago it was. Jets fans feel like they are the ones who have been going through this gridiron hell when, I mean, they've been bad. They've been worse than Buffalo recently. And Buffalo obviously went to 4 Super Bowls, but nobody cares about that when you lose them all. We've had a little bit more introspection. Like we've been able to accept the fact that that feat was so impressive that nobody's been able to do it. And that's been 30 years. So that's cool and all. But at the end of the day, we don't count AFL championships, right? Nobody cares about those anymore. So when I'm looking at Mike Greenberg and the way that he's defending Josh Allen, it's because he is a Jets fan. What he is doing is saying, I'm tired of running through guys like Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson and getting old Joe Flacco and old Michael Vick and Mark Sanchez. I'm so tired of dealing with this, and you have a real dude. So what he's doing, I don't even necessarily think that he's really caping up that he thinks that Josh Allen is that great. Individually, I know that he is, and he makes a lot of mistakes, and I have accepted it. I've accepted it. But you're not doing anything with Diggs when you look at the landscape of everything else they've got there. The offensive line is trash. Gabe Davis is overrated. He's doing it because I was listening to Bomani Jones on the way home, and this kind of reminded me, and Kyle, I see you there in a minute. I'm going to get to you. Kyle, don't go nowhere. I saw your comment. I'll be right there in a moment, bud. I was listening to Bomani Jones in this podcast on the way back, and they had Cam Newton on, and he was kind of going back and forth about game managers versus game changers, right? So he's lumping in certain quarterbacks where they're just largely pocket passers instead of game changers, which is what Josh Allen is. He's not going to manage anything. He's going to hire recklessly, be absurd with his bookkeeping. He's not going to manage anything. He's a game changer, not a game manager. And Greenberg he's just enamored because he goes, could you imagine what we could have done if we just had a dude like Josh Allen? Spoiler alert, still wouldn't have done anything because there was this guy named Michael Jordan wearing number 15 in Kansas City. But Kyle Anderson says, there is my amazing concoction. Oh, man. Okay, so when you say, man, I misread you because you had commented on my, okay, just so that everybody knows, I know it's kind of weird now, but the other day I was having some breakfast and I went ahead and mixed some lemon frosted Cheerios with Raisin Bran Crunch. And it was amazing. And I posted on my social, said, this is an amazing concoction. So then Kyle Anderson swoops in and he goes, you're an amazing concoction. And next thing I know, right up in my pop-up right there is Kyle saying, there's my amazing concoction. And you're my boy, Blue, and I appreciate you, Kyle. So that's largely my thing. Greenberg is just, he's such a, it's not that he's a hater, obviously, but it's when you have those types of compliments, they're kind of embedded in your own sorrow. And as a Jets fan, I understand, but I'm a Bills fan, so we get it. Brandon Staley, oh boy. So yeah, that boy went into the Chargers facility this morning. He tried, I know that's what he did. He rolled in and he tried to put his key card up and it was like, try it again. It's just a delay. That's all right. Oh boy. Nope. You done, son. And I was actually there were jokes about this and I kind of made a similar transition to it because if people remember, this was probably 8 years ago where Vontae Davis, who used to play for the Bills, during halftime, just quit. Just got up, left the building, took off his pads, and he's like, I'm chucking up the deuces. And he just left. So on Thursday Night Football, when the Chargers are getting the absolute brakes beat off of them, I wasn't watching because I was at work. I checked my DraftKings lineup and I was like, why is it down so low? Oh, that's why. Because the Raiders are beating the absolute holy hell out of the Chargers. That should have been one of those moments. Brandon Staley should have been the Vontae Davis of coaching and just given up. Said, you know what? I've had enough, man. I'm tapping out, dog. I'm out. We're done. This has been a thing it's been a long time coming for a lot of fans. Well, not even just fans, just football people. Brandon Staley should be losing his job. A lot of people say it's overdue. I say it's pretty much right on time. You've had enough time now with Justin Herbert to try to figure things out. But Brandon Staley's one of those dudes where, man, he's supposed to be a defensive guy and it's trash. You're a nerdy guy and you're not figuring it out. I feel bad for Herbert because now he's on his, third coach? I think he's on his, that was his third coach, I believe, in the last 5 years. And you've got to get continuity because the talent around in that roster has been bonkers. And this is not just a Brandon Staley thing. I need people to know that. The Chargers are cursed. It's not, we talked about Greenberg in the last segment. This is not, it's a cursed franchise. They had Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates and just put up stupid bananas numbers. And it doesn't seem to matter. They're cursed. And speaking of, I saw another funny thing where Young Hoku, the kicker for the Falcons, he was a Charger, missed his first 2 kicks, and then made his next 6. And they cut him. Then he goes to Atlanta, and now he's technically the most accurate kicker of all time, passing Justin Tucker. And I was like, that's wild because this is why I had to quit the narcotic of Buffalo Bills fan pages, is because they're so delusional. Because I remember when Tyler Bass first came into the league, and he had a rough rookie season. Well, like the first 4 to 5 games, it was not good. And people were already calling for this kid's job. You weren't doing that when he was doing like 62, 61, 59 field goals in the clutch. No. Then you're going to backtrack it. Nobody's willing to give anybody any time. And kicker's a weird one for us to kind of give the pass on. Well, you should give them more time because they're kickers and we don't consider them to be football players, but they are responsible for a good percentage of your points sometimes. Sometimes all of them. Not so much in today's NFL. That's very rare. But the Dallas Cowboys got a good kicker. That I know for damn sure. All right. So I'm trying to keep these things in progressive motion. So Bill Belichick, there's been rumors that he's going to be gone after this year, but we thought he was going to be dealt, not even dealt, cut, released, whatever verbiage you want to use. We thought he was done in New England way earlier than anybody expected. But then we find out that New England gave him this crazy extension, and it was all hid under the rug. So what do you really believe? What do you think is actually going to happen? He's incredibly close to breaking Don Shula's record. This, to me, feels like it could be a ploy because that's what the Patriots do. The Patriots are always going to Patriot, whether you believe that it's always cheating, which if that's the hill that you want to die on, you can. But if we're taking all of the fanhood out of it and we're just looking at it from a business perspective, Belichick has always gotten rid of guys too soon, then hold on to them too late. That has been a staple of his general managing style. That is who he is. That's who he's always been. The football aspect and the way that he looks at players, that has not changed. And that's what's more than anything biting him in the ass, because he hasn't drafted well. He hasn't been able to develop the skill position guys. When we're talking about this extension they got, I don't believe fully that he's out of New England. I think what they're going to do is push the button as much as they can, because Robert Kraft, to me, he's living proof that dinosaurs once roamed the earth. The fact that he's still alive is insane to me, especially given the life that dude's lived, reckless speculation on other things. But those two have always kind of been, well, not always. They were great friends. They had a great chemistry initially. Then there was a division when it comes to him and Brady. Who should we keep? Who should we let go? But they always had this respect for each other, and they always kind of knew this is what this is going to be. This is my job. This is your job. You butt out. You let me do my thing. And they're both very direct. They always have been. And I don't see either one of those two dudes changing anytime soon. But to just believe that the Patriots, I use that again because I use the quotations because I don't know if these guys are in cahoots. But maybe, just maybe, they gave him the extension because maybe they want to trade Belichick. But you got to put it to the right. If that's even the case, there's all kinds of conspiracy theories. They gave him all the money because it's a farewell like tour, basically. You already had Brady. Brady's getting all of the love anyways. So tell you what, why don't we go ahead and we'll give you an extension. We'll keep it under the rug. And you can just have the extra money. Not that you really necessarily need it, but we'll do it as like a throwaway to your career. And then there's certain people who, like me, think this is something where you're trying to get assets back. You've got a lot of holes to fill on the offensive side of the ball, which you might be able to do. It's not it's not like the NBA where expiring contracts actually mean something. Like this is like a full blown contract, right? It's an extension. So what you could, in theory, do is bring him back and say, "Hey, we're willing to trade Bill Belichick." And I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm just saying none of these two people that I know have ever done anything in the football aspect, at least, out of the goodness of their heart. There's always an angle for something. You're not just going to give Bill Belichick this you're not going to give him a long term contract, give him both their ages between Kraft and Belichick. You're not going to give Belichick a long term extension and then say, oh, you know, at the end of the year, we're just going to cut you. We're going to let you go, regardless of how bad he is, because he's chasing Shula. That's the biggest thing. He's chasing Shula, and there's so much history in that organization and with them together. This feels like, to me, Kraft said there was one of those good old boys handshake deals. Hey man, I'm going to give you some money. I'm going to leak it to the audience, to the fans, to the media, and say, we're going to let you go. We want to part ways with you and see if somebody trades for you. Because then you can go ahead and do your thing. I get some draft capital back. My legacy can be rebuilt, and I don't want either one of us to be associated with this 3-win team at the end of the season, basically. But when you look at where the coaching landscape is right now, there's not a whole lot of spots that I can think of that, one, he'd want to go, and two, that he could be traded to. But if they absolutely get back, so, Kyle, man, you distracted me. Like, he came back. I'm back now. No, but I was telling the story about the lemon frosted Cheerios and the Raisin Bran Crunch, and how when you came back, you're like, "There's my amazing concoction." You're a good man, my guy. And tell you what, if you have anything you want to talk about, throw in the chat because you're here. And what I'm basically wrapping up is the Bill Belichick stuff. When I'm looking at possible landing spots for him, the AFC East, not going to happen, especially via trade. Like, and he's not going to cut him, just let him go. And I don't think that anybody in the AFC East really wants that. It's such a quarterback-driven division. Like, there's just not a whole lot of spots. The AFC North, everybody's good. Kyle says he could go to Carolina. I don't think so, because I mentioned this a little bit beforehand, was if he's trying to chase Shula, he's still, I don't believe yet, I don't think anymore. I don't think he's double digits behind him. But Carolina, to me, is one of those squads where you got so much work to do. You maybe have to work 4 more years to catch Shula. And I don't think that that's what we're going to do. Those Chargers are going to need a head coach. Well, this is the thing. And I know that has been the huge, when we're talking about where are the landing spots for Bill Belichick, every single person that I know is saying him to the Chargers. The reason why I don't think it's going to happen, that ownership group is ridiculously cheap. He's a defensive-minded coach. They have a top 5 quarterback, and that's like, those are my biggest things. The San Francisco, they don't spend money. He's an old, rigid dude going from the cold of New England to the glitz and glamour of the Chargers. Now, if they're willing to get the right offensive person involved, because I don't know if I believe in Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore might actually be the next guy to be the head coach because it's such an offensive-driven league. Bill Belichick went at the height of what he was looking for and what he was doing was game manager Tom Brady at the beginning, right? I'm not saying that Tom Brady is a game manager, but that is what the word association in the early to mid 2000s ish was Belichick genius, Brady game manager. And he would constantly find these defensive gems and football players and able to make it work. That isn't the case anymore. And when it comes to Today's NFL, you largely need an offensive minded head coach and have great coordinators. He wants to be everything. Belichick still wants to run the entire joint, and he can't. He can't do it anymore. He's terrible at draft picks. He's terrible. The, the only thing they ever got right, really, and even Brady, that's a luck thing. 6th round pick. We don't have to say that this is rocket science, right? That's ridiculous. You lucked into the pick. You lucked into the best player to arguably ever play football. Fair enough. We can move on from that. But he hasn't been allowed, not that he hasn't been allowed to, but he hasn't been able to evolve to today's NFL. And unless they get the right offensive mind, then that's going to be a problem. So let's see. Chargers are going to be needing coach. Oh, he would have a plug and play QB. Yeah, he would. And oh, you can't stand Kellen Moore. Well, Kyle, you're a Cowboys fan though, right? So I mean, like, I would understand where there'd be like some trepidation, there'd be some irritation when it comes to the whole Kellen Moore thing. But Kellen Moore isn't the reason why the Chargers are the way they are. Like I said, I feel like the Chargers are cursed, just about, if not more than the Jets. But like, they fired Marty Schottenheimer after a 14-2 season. Like, the Chargers, like, they do these types of things. I mentioned it earlier. They let go of currently Wang Hoku, like the most accurate kicker in NFL history. When I'm looking at like division by division and places that Belichick could land, it's not the AFC East, because that's just not going to happen. And the Jets don't have the only place. I'll speed run through it. AFC East, Bills, not going to happen. Defensive minded coach already with McDermott. If they do it, they're not going to replace him with another one. If they get Bill Belichick, oh my God, that would be fantastic. There's only 2 places I think would be, as far as storylines are concerned, there's only 2 places I think would be fantastic. Buffalo's one of them. I'll get to the other one in a minute. But not the Jets. They both hate each other. Not the Dolphins, because they're not getting rid of McDaniels. AFC North, there's nobody. Steelers, nope. Browns, nope. Bengals, maybe, just because I don't believe in Zach Taylor, just because Jake Browning's had a couple games back-to-back that are good. Before this, they were 4-28 when they had Zach Taylor at head coach, but Joe Burrow not as quarterback. 4 wins, 28 losses. But now that Browning's look good in a couple weeks, now they want to say that he's a great coach. I don't know if before I complete that sentence, I do think that coaches can learn as well. So maybe he has grown. I don't know. But you are who you are until you're not that anymore. But let's say Steelers, Browns, Bengals, Ravens, like, those guys aren't losing anybody. AFC South, I think that most people believe in, like, there's some young teams. I don't think that anybody's willing to give up on anybody. I'm not going to rattle through this. That's going to be too much. But what I will say is, if there's 2 teams I think would be the most fascinating to watch this happen to, because Buffalo, if they miss the playoffs this year, Buffalo could move on from Sean McDermott. Now, he's the one who helped turn it around, because they went 17 years without a playoff appearance, and now they've been in the playoffs every year except for 1 since he's been the head coach. That's pretty impressive given the turnaround they had to go through. Part of it had to do with Brady leaving, but I guess that's neither here nor there. But it'd be fantastic if the Bills were to fire McDermott and bring in Belichick. The only other one that I can think of that'd be more, as far as a storyline, is him to Tampa. We've been debating forever who made who. Well, Brady made Belichick because, he left and got a ring his first year in Tampa. People saying Belichick made Brady. He was a 199th overall pick. These guys they're always going to be intertwined. They're always going to have this connection, like we do with certain quarterbacks, like with Andrew Luck and RG3, or Marcus Mariota and God, I'm even drawing like on that right now. But there's certain players that when we do word association, it's, oh, you were number one, you were number two. And this, like, the reason why you were one is because of this person. And there's a reason why you were number two. Him going to Tampa would be the ultimate reason for him to try to squash this and put this back and forth, this awkward Wimbledon of who's better. You're Brady, Belichick, Brady, Belichick. No, we can put it to rest. If he goes to Tampa and wins one, that's pretty much what happens. So Draymond Green, dude, this guy's got to figure things out, man. I remember a couple years ago, I had a podcast that said the title was "Perception Becomes Reality," and then last year I said "Perception Becomes Reality Part 2," and they're both about Draymond Green because both of them have everything to do with the fact of your track record is so, or we just can't bypass this anymore. So he punched Jordan Poole in the face, and people were championing for him, saying, yeah, like, well, Jordan Poole's an idiot and he's this and that. You're saying that now because he's in Washington being a knucklehead, but he got his money from your franchise when the guy that you love, Steph Curry, was out. So Jordan Poole got to play the number one dude, essentially, for lack of a better term, got to be the number one dude, and got his confidence rose like through the roof. And but Draymond continues to just have this inability to take responsibility for the things that he does. And basketball fans to me are kind of weird, where they say they always want to change the narrative to what I guess I shouldn't just label as just the basketball fans. It's sports fans in general, where, well, Michael Jordan could never play in this era because it's too soft. Okay, well, he wasn't a great three-point shooter. He probably wouldn't be great. You could also make the argument that he would have developed one. Maybe LeBron couldn't play in the old era because, it's too strong. You can make any foul you want to. I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure that guy could have taken the pain. You don't know because your mind, your thought process, and the way that you have to take on these certain new challenges, if you're just plug and playing somebody from one era to another in the same sport, one, it's a hypothetical that's stupid anyways, because we're never going to know. But people clamor for the old NBA, the 80s, which I don't really know why. It wasn't very skilled. Draymond would fit in there. Draymond Green would fit in the 1980s perfectly. Anywhere from the 80s to the early 90s. He's somebody that you need to have. But if I have to make a decision between Draymond Green and somebody else, put any person that you want to in there, I'm most likely picking the other player. Earlier on, I would have said Draymond. But this is what happens in sports because this is what happens in business. And we don't like mixing business with sports, but business and sport, like, they're intertwined. And sports is a business. When you have a certain talent and when you are absurdly good at what you do, there is a lot of stuff that people are willing to pass on and just, you know what? I didn't see it. I work in sales now. I used to work in sales back in the day. I remember when I was 18 years old and I first got into the car business, there was a dude who would always show up 2 or 3 hours late or leave 2 or 3 hours early. I'm like, yo, we got 8-9 hour shifts. What's going on? And my sales manager goes, tell you what, when you sell 35 cars a month, you can go ahead and do that too. And that's when you realize, oh, that's how this works. And it is. And that's what Draymond's done. That Draymond is piggybacking off the greatness of Steph. And you could make the argument, if you really wanted to, that when it came to the real core of that Golden State squad, and this is the thing, we're pretty far removed from that now, in the vacuum of how we consume sports now. We aren't that far removed, but our attention spans have moved us so far away from it. From where Draymond Green, you could say, was the second best player on that squad. If you were to line up everything that he did for that team, that Clay wouldn't or couldn't, you could make the argument. I'm not saying that you'd be wrong. I'm not saying you'd be right, but you'd have a valid one, regardless of what side of the fence that you stand on. But when you don't have the value anymore, and when you have, we use the term, or I'd like to at least, outkick your coverage. He outkicked his coverage by being the scrappy defender, facilitator, the secondary facilitator to Steph, sometimes running the offense, taking pressure off of Steph to be able to run off of screens and get open and get spot up shots. When you're doing that, you outkick your coverage and your talent, and you get paid. Then when you win 4 championships, and even before the last one a couple of years ago, and you had 3 of them, you start getting this inflated version of yourself where you think that, well, they're doing this because of me. I'm the catalyst, because that's all he hears. All that Draymond Green hears all the time is he's the fire starter. He's the reason why. Like, we all know it's through Steph. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that he is the engine, but Steph's the engine. If he breaks down, the whole thing breaks down. But he's the guy who gets it started. But now he's gotten to a point where nothing he does is valuable to you. Either he's not, if he's playing, he's not really playing. And if he does, he's been ejected, like, I don't even know how many times he's been ejected this year alone and how many suspensions he's got, but he's missing time. Like, you can't trust this guy to play for every 10 games. You're like, I know I'm not going to have Draymond. He's a liability now. And it wasn't like 10 years ago. Well, 10 years ago, I guess it's too much because it's 2000. Okay. So 6-7 years ago, that wasn't the case. You couldn't afford to miss Draymond Green. Now you're like, God, we got to deal with this all the time. And if Steph's not playing, we really in trouble. But the thing that I wanted to bring up before I move on to the next thing was, I had brought up to a couple people earlier that this is going to be a fire sale when it comes to the Warriors pretty soon. Now, Draymond's not going to move. I had to take a screenshot. Sorry for I wasn't paying attention. I was being a bad host. But when I'm looking at this, like, Steph's not going anywhere. They could never get rid of Steph. Even like the NBA allows for expiring contracts to have value. Not when it comes to Steph. And the only reason why it could is if the entire roster becomes booty juice and you're like, dude, I know he's making $60 million a year, but is it worth it for us to keep him when no one's coming? Like, no one's showing up to the stadium? That's going to be the problem. And this is why when people like, I was kind of one of them. Joe Lacob, hey, look at you, man. You're willing to go into luxury tax and spend because you know what? It's putting butts in the seats, beers in people's mouths, and that thing is stacked. That stadium is packed. That arena is full every single day. But if everybody else is gone and it's just Steph and y'all are winning 15 games a year, is that going to happen? Or would you rather trade the guy who really put you back on the map and blow it up? I don't know, because we're about 3 years away from that. I'm getting too far ahead of myself with that. But Klay Thompson, that dude's getting traded. And I hope you guys like my my Golden Girls mug. It changes colors when there's like hot stuff in there, which is weird because like Blanche is there, so why isn't it hot? But like no, Klay Thompson is absolutely getting dealt. And if they don't trade him, the Warriors are done. He's making $43 million this year. The Warriors tried to give him a 2-year, $48 million contract last year, and he turned it down. Well, he's a shell of himself. He's not the same guy. I've never been a huge Klay Thompson fan, anyways, to be complete. I know it sounds like I'm just being a hater, but no, I've never been a really big Klay Thompson fan. I feel like he's very, when they use the term 3-and-D, like that is what you were getting. You were getting defense, you were getting 3-point shooting. That was it. Nothing creative, nothing from rebounding, nothing from ball handling. It was just spot up shooting and defense. And he's had so many injuries. He's having career lows in everything. Part of it's age, part of it's surgeries, part of it is just mileage from playing so much more basketball, which is what LeBron's doing is so absurd as well. Some of these guys have been playing a long time. And when you go into the postseason and deep postseason runs, plus the Olympics sometimes, there's a lot of wear and tear. And Klay's no different, but Klay's making $42 million a year this year. I shouldn't say per year because it's this year, but it's $42 million. You don't think that the Golden State Warriors are going to find some kind of suitor to get rid of him? Because they are. They're going to want to get something back because I guarantee you, like I said earlier, they offered him 2 years, 48, and he said, nah. No. If you paying Draymond, because that's the thing with Draymond's making 22 this year, 24 next year, and 25 million 3 years from now. And he goes, I don't know if he said this or not, but I can only imagine that he would. You want to pay that guy and pay him longer, but you don't want to pay me like even the same amount of money? This is where you deal Klay Thompson. The Warriors are cooked. That run is done. At $43 million a year, there is somebody who is going to want to take him because, again, with the NBA and expiring contracts, they can be a really good thing for you. And he's going to be a really good thing for somebody. You blow that up. Gary Payton Jr. or the second, he's making $8 million this year, $9 million next year. Kevon Looney, $7.5 million this year, $8 million next year. Corey Joseph, $3 million this year. Dario Saric, $2 million this year. Chris Paul is under contract this year and next year for $30 million, 800,000 for the next 2 years. If you don't trade Chris Paul this year, you're sure as hell doing it next year. The Warriors are completely cooked. And if we don't want to do this when it comes to like super crazy mega stars, right? Steph Curry falls into that category. He's making $52 million this year. He's going to make $56 million next year and almost $60 million in 2025. You might as well just destroy this entire roster. You're not going anywhere. And Draymond Green, I feel like what he's doing right now, and I kind of got off topic, and I'm sorry about that because I have a tendency to do that, is Draymond, we had this inclination that he doesn't want to play if Steph isn't going to play, right? That was something that was brought up, I think, after the Gobert chokehold, where it essentially was, well, if Steph's not playing, I'm not going to play. Like, I know we're going to lose. Draymond's basically doing what every superstar would do, like a James Harden or a Kawhi Leonard or a Damian Lillard, but he's doing it in a different fashion. Everyone's got their own version of how they want to make a scene. And Draymond knows, this is the thing, and I probably should have led with this because it's a much more hotter take, is that he knows that if he doesn't have Steph, he's nothing. He knows that he's completely cooked for his career and that Steph made his. I think he played all 4 years at Michigan State, which there isn't anything wrong with that. And he's going to go in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I know that. This is not like this isn't rocket surgery, if we're quoting Boondock Saints 2. But I think that what Draymond Green is feeling right now is he knows that his legacy is about to be done. And it's not even just his, it's Golden State's. The thing that we all propped him up to be the catalyst, to be the one of the reasons, if it's not Steph, it's you. That's gone now. And he's feeling the pressure of it, along with Giannis, and I'll get to Giannis in a second. But Draymond is knowing right now, dude, I don't have much time left. I might as well go to a winner. And his salary, and it sounds absurd, but $25 million a year is not an absurd amount of money for a guy of his caliber. But are you willing to take on the headache and maybe the suspensions? That's a different question for a different day. But speaking of guys with anger issues and stuff like that, is Giannis, dog. Like, Giannis got to get it together. I've been saying this forever. And I don't like Giannis. I don't like his game. I think it's ugly. I know that he is athletic. He is an athletic freak, and I understand that. But I think his game is ugly. I think he's very predictable. He's got a complex similar to what Draymond does. I remember him like as a rookie or his second year chasing down Mike Dunleavy Jr. and plowing him after a foul that he thought that he should have got. And the way that he reacts after everything doesn't go his way anymore. And his brother acting, it's so funny. I don't have it in front of me, but it was either yesterday or the day before him. There was this hard foul on Giannis, and Thanasis, his brother, was trying to like, hold me back, dog. I got this. And he's basically holding himself back. Like, you're not doing anything. It's a bunch of fake tough guys. I just don't like his demeanor. I think it's fake. He plays to what the American crowd wants. And I've said it beforehand. I'll say it again. He does it all the time. I want to win here in Milwaukee. Yeah, I don't want to go anywhere else. But if you don't give me the players that I want, I'm going to leave. And what he's realizing right now is when he started winning MVPs and he won one title, he, at that point in time, to me, he thought this is my league. I took it. It's mine. Nope. It is not. And he's feeling the pressure now because the West is still as good as it's ever been, still deeper, still better. And he's just over here, I don't know, trying to start fights with Tyrese Halliburton because he got a dunk and it wasn't even on him. Giannis has got to stop it, man, but he's not going to. But people won't listen to me. You got to read between the lines sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Got to read between the lines. There's a difference between tanking and being bad. I got to speed rush this now because I got like 10 minutes left. Good luck with this execution, Prescott. All right, let's go. So there's a difference between tanking and being bad. And what I heard and read, and a lot of just people on the interwebs tell me, well, the Chargers are tanking. No. You don't win like 5-6 games. That's not how you tank. That's not how you win. You're just bad. You're bad. Carolina Panthers, well, they're tanking for another quarterback. They're not tanking for anything. They're bad. Case closed. Like, Colombo doesn't need to say, I was thinking over there. No, it's done. You're bad. The Patriots, to me, are tanking. And that always goes back to the whole Belichick thing. Their defense has been absurd. It's been really good. And that's the staple. It always has been, at least under Belichick. To me, I feel like the Patriots are tanking. And that's the reason why they're like kind of dangling Bill Belichick in front of people like, hey, well, we're going to get rid of him at the end of the season. Only if you get something crazy as far as a return. I don't see them giving him the extension, then cutting him and saying, you just pick wherever you want to. No, this feels like a ploy, which is why I'm not 100% certain that this is real news coming out of the Northeast. But the Patriots, to me, aren't like, they're tanking now because they want to get a quarterback. This is purposefully. The defense has been absurd. They need to get skill position guys. But if you have, God, if they can just get the quarterback and get one skill position guy right, just one, they'll figure it out and be back on track. And then they'll run the AFC East once again, because I don't believe that Bill Belichick can be killed. That's where I'm at. I don't think he can die. I think he's sold his soul already. You don't get to be that good for that long. And also playing the worst division for the longest time ever. And if he re-signs and they get Caleb Williams or Drake May and get another stud skill position guy, they'll do it again, and they're both going to live until they're 192, and I'll never see championship or not championship. Well, I didn't see the Bills championships either because they were in the 60s, but I'll never see a Bills Super Bowl ever again if those two things happen. Carolina Panthers are now selling tickets for less than 50 cents. And I'm really upset with myself that Chili Dean, who's a good buddy of mine through the socials, I put on the social medias that, the Curtis Jackson 50 Cent, and he goes, oh, well, it could have been a 50 Cent concert with a Nickelback. And I was bummed that I didn't think of that. I've seen it beforehand. I know that it's not a new thing with like doing the math on 45 cents, but I'm just mad that I didn't think about it because it was a perfect time to do it. But here's what's going to happen, man. Nobody wants to come see you anyways if you're in Carolina and you're playing Atlanta this week. It's not even that if you were playing anybody who was remotely good, you wouldn't have to stoop to 45-cent tickets. But you do because you're trash and the Falcons are trash. And there should be a committee to decide who actually wins the NFC South this year. I don't know who, but there should be. 45 cents per ticket is fine. It makes you look like you're a trash organization because you are. I heard somebody say like they think that Bill Belichick will go to coach the Panthers. No, he's not. There's no way that Bill Belichick is going to go to Carolina and coach for the Panthers when they got David, who I like to call David Temper. There's no way that he's going to do that. No chance in hell. But the Panthers reducing their tickets to 45 cents in certain areas is comical, but also when it's you as Carolina and Atlanta, who isn't any good either, you're not the gate revenue isn't what you're worried about because people aren't coming to watch you anyways. But what you do is you capitalize on it. 45 cents get you in the door. What else are you going to do on a Sunday afternoon for 45 cents? Nothing. But what they're going to do is they're going to pick you for parking. They're going to pick you for all these other fees. And I guarantee you, I don't know what it costs for beer and concessions, but every single thing that's there, they're going to raise by just a little bit more. 45 cents just gets you in the door, dog. We are here to we're going to take advantage of you with the concessions, the beer, the food. We just want you in the door. It's the old bait and switch. And as my ticker rolls through, I think we got through everything today. We did the whole Brock Purdy thing. Me telling you guys how Mike Greenberg isn't really praising Josh Allen. He's really just salty as a Jets fan. Brandon Staley, yeah, we got through that. Difference between being taking and being bad. We got there as well. I got kind of rushed towards the end. I'm sorry about that. Right now it's 8:30 p.m. I got off work and I went and came and did this. 8:30 for me isn't late, but on the East Coast, it's already past midnight. That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, we got Draymond, we got the ticket sales, NFC, which we had a committee, blah, 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 blah. Yep, looks like we got everything. So I am bummed at the fact that we weren't able. Is brought to you. Whoa. I was bummed at the fact that we couldn't get to every single thing that we wanted to in more depth. But thank you for chopping up with P. Scott. I'm Prescott Kelly. It is always a pleasure being on the mic with you guys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wives. Spotify, if you don't follow already, please do. Like, smash those 5-star reviews. You can also find us on YouTube at Chop It Up P. Scott as well as Apple Podcasts. You guys know the drill. Stay up, stay blessed. Catch you guys on the next one.